G'day everybody, welcome back to another episode of Crafted by Tim. Today, we've got some upgrades to do. In this episode, I'm going to be mainly focusing on my anvil. This 8 kilo hunk, I think it was 8 kilos. Anyway, this 8 kilogram hunk of railroad's track that my uncle gave me, and he lives in Victoria. I live in Western Australia, which means that this thing has come an awful long way. By plane. It was a task. But this is half of one of his anvils. We're gonna be cleaning it up. Now, 8 kilos is a good hefty weight. It's not very much in comparison to a lot of other anvils, but it is great for what I'm doing. Problem is that first of all, we have a lot of rounded corners. So all of the corners are rounded, which isn't really helpful for the work that I'm trying to do. We're going to be redressing the anvil itself. We are then going to be welding a faceplate. This is just some mild steel that I got from a local steel supply shop. And we're also going to be making a hardy hole for it out of this 50 by 50 mil chunk of steel. There's a little bit of a story to go with that, and I'll tell it in just a second. I'll also leave a time link if you don't want to hear the story. But anyway, that is the general plan. There is another thing that I wanted to talk about, which was the forge. I think I pretty well fixed all of the problems with it. I'm going to light it up a few times in the meantime, make sure that it's running well. But lots to do. Let's get started. By the way, if you don't want to hear the story, skip. So all of the steel that I'm using I got from a local steel supply place. And I walked in there, I had a look around. It's all scrap. It's where I go to get all my steel because it being scrap, it's usually really cheap. And in this case, it was actually free. I walked in, weighed it all up, and it came to a total of 2 kilos, or 2 point something kilos, but it only comes up with 2 kilos on the scales. And the guy was like, okay, 2 kilos is good for me. So he wrote down 2 kilos. I went into the office to pay for it, and I gave the guy the thing. And he was like, that all? And I was just like, yeah, don't worry, mate, I'll come back for some more. And he was just like, don't worry about it. Just he gives me back the receipt, and he's like, no, don't worry, I know you'll be back. So I was like, sweet, okay, thanks. So I picked up this today. I went around to this this CNC milling place, and I was just like, g'day, can you guys mill a 25 by 25 millimeter slot in this? Just right the way down the middle. And he's just like, yeah, we can do that. And there was like this little voice in the back of my head. It's like, dude, ask him how much this is gonna cost. And I was just like, okay, cool. How much is this gonna cost? And he's like, and he took a few seconds to think, and I was just like, you know, $5, $10 maybe 20. And he's just like, about $60. And I thought to myself, $60? What? This guy's hourly rate must be like $240 an hour, because this is a 10-minute job. Maybe 20 minutes. What? Long story short, I wasn't going to pay $60 to get this milled. So now I'm looking at other options. I've got some 25mm stock here. So this, I believe, came off a 25mm thick plate. If I take this and then cut 2 sections off it, a 25-ish millimeter spacer, I'll just cut off another piece, have it up here, I should be able to have a pretty well perfect 25 by 25 slot. So that's the plan. Now all I have to do is actually do it. Okay, so I should probably explain what I've actually changed about the forge. So first things first, I was wrong about the problem previously. It wasn't about the gas bottle needing to heat up. It was actually about forge burner being too close to the base of the forge. So the forge that I have built is about 80 mil high by 120 mil wide, or at least it is now. I think before it had an extra 50 mil, something like that. Anyway, and I thought, you know, it's just sort of a conversion rate. You work out the cubic centimeters of your forge, and you can just play with that until you get a shape that you want. I was wrong. So the burner itself is designed for a forge that's about 150 millimeters wide, or has a diameter of 150 millimeters. And I can't remember the depth of the forge, but that's not necessarily necessary right now. Because I only had 80 mil, what the flame was doing is it was jetting out of the end of the burner, hitting the wall, and just kind of blowing back on itself, and it was actually self-extinguished. It was putting itself out, so that's bad. You don't want that. I've had it running for about 5 minutes now, and I think the slight variation now is more due to wind and stuff like that. It's actually a really horrible day to be forging outside, but I need to put out a video. I haven't put out a video for 2 weeks. As of right now, I don't know when this video is going to come out. I really hope it's soon, but sorry guys. Regardless, the forge burner itself, it's working now, way better. Other upgrades that I've done to the forge is I've brought in the side walls a little bit more. That should hopefully help it heat up a little bit faster. What I did was I actually filled up that area with insulating refractory rather than brick, because the bricks that I'm using are dense bricks, which means that they heat up, but they hold the heat themselves rather than heating up the area around them, deflecting the heat. And that's kind of what you need. Aside from that, I think the only other upgrade was that I put little tabs to help hold the doors in place and stop them from falling out. But yeah, that's pretty well the only changes I've made to the forge. The forge has been running for about 12 minutes now. I'm gonna go check on it. Hopefully it's hot enough. I reckon that if this works, we should be able to throw in a welded billet and see whether or not we can make some Damascus, have a bit of play with that. So this is my bucket of gross WD-40. This is the billet that we have of what I hope to be Damascus. So we got some mild steel, some 15 and 20, 2 mild steel, 1 15 and 20, 2 mild steel, 1 15 and 20, and then some more mild steel. The reason why I'm using mild steel is because it's cheap, and I didn't want to use too much 15 and 20, but I still wanted to have enough material to work with, so I reckon that's not going to be too bad of a size. I believe this is a 38 by 30 by, I don't know, looks like 15 to 18 mil tall, maybe 20 mil tall, not sure. Should be fun to work with. Getting a few drops of rain right now. It's not good. This is going to be intense. Well, unfortunately the handle broke off. Not an awful lot else that I can do until I weld on another handle, because it's actually really hard to grab a hold of. These are 5mm tongs. They obviously don't hold this very well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up all the sides, cut off both ends, because each end is a little bit manky. As you can still see the layers. You can't really see the back end. We'll grind off all the scale and see what we actually have underneath it, whether or not it's actually solid. It looks solid, I hope. Anyway, once we grind off all the mill scale, or the oxide, we should have a pretty good idea. Just picked up the gas bottle, and as you can see, as the gas bottle is used, it gets really cold on the outside. But what's interesting is that right underneath it there's this frozen patch right underneath the gas bottle, and it's like popped out. Wow, that's really fascinating. Like, look at all the ice in this. Can't get it off, but wow. Fill it all ground up, and you can see just there, right there, there's a little bit of delamination, which isn't great, but hopefully it doesn't run too deep. I'll re-weld that onto there, and hopefully might be able to deliver a few good blows on that side. Reseal that up, maybe, I don't know. So that actually turned out really nice. I can't see any other kind of delamination there, so that's really cool. But regardless, now I get to re-weld it back up, and I guess back into the forge. Alright, so it's been a little while. So the last time we talked, it was Monday. It's been almost a week. By the way, that Monday was just so happened to be West Australia Day, so happy West Australia Day for then. Sorry, it's late, as always. It's currently Saturday. I gotta edit and upload this video in about 5 hours to make sure that it still comes out tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Nice.
The Damascus, it worked. A little bit of delamination, but that's okay. I will show you in just a second. I just wanted to talk about a few other things. I'm not going to beat the dead horse that is what's better, a coal forge or a gas forge, but I will say this, I really like the gas forge. For me, it's safer. I mean, to a degree. Of course, now you have a gas bottle rather than just coal, which catches fire. A gas bottle can explode. It's actually just easier to light a gas forge. They take about the same time to get started, but a gas forge you can put out instantly. A coal forge, I mean, you can, but it's difficult and, you know, not nearly as safe. Kind of depends on the situation. But really liking the gas forge. Once again, thanks to Artisan Supplies, and thank you to Corin. He's the guy that's been helping me out. I'm not sure whether or not you'll see this video, but thank you for all of the help with getting the gas forge running better. But all in all, I really like the burner. If you're wondering what the height is for the burner, it is actually about 120 millimeters from the bottom. Just in case you want to have a similar forge setup to this. You know, 150 is sort of like preferable, but 120 works out just fine. On to the moment that you probably weren't all waiting for, but I've been really excited about this. The ring. This ring, I really like the way that this turned out. It's actually really interesting to see how the mild steel actually finished up, how it etched in the end. I just put a twist in the bar, and then I cut it in half, folded it over on itself, and then forge welded that back together after grinding the sides to make sure that I got a good weld. Through all of that, I actually ended up with what I thought would be a more complex pattern, but it turned out to be quite simple, and yet it's still really interesting. And I've learnt a lot from this process. On the inside there is a little bit of delamination, and of course I didn't actually finish the inside to a higher grit. I should probably go ahead and do that, but I want to make sure that this video gets out before Sunday. But overall, I'm really happy with the way that this turned out. I reckon there is a lot to learn from this one piece, and there's a lot about ring making that I had to learn whilst making it. As you can see, the join there is folded over on itself. On the other side it's a little bit sharp, but it's not too bad. But the one thing that I really took away from it is how difficult it is to forge weld a ring back together. I tried that for the first time. It was a learning curve, and I definitely learned from it. But it was awesome. Anyway, I'm really sorry about how long this video took to make. I didn't expect it to take this long, so I am sorry about that. It's really just about timing things around work and around the weather as well, because the majority of the past week it's just been continuously raining, and that's been difficult to work around, but we got there in the end. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully the next video will be out on time, but in the meantime, remember to stay safe, happy crafting, and as always, cheers.